Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and the entire cryptocurrency asset class as a whole, and discuss the idea that time is still on our side. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Also check out the sale on the premium list. You can find a link to that in the description below as well. Let's go ahead and jump in. So this chart, while again it may look like the chart for Bitcoin, it is in fact the market capitalization of the entire cryptocurrency asset class. We do an update on this chart typically once a month, being the first of the month. We call it Bitcoin, the Beauty of Mathematics. We have about 11 videos on it. We've been doing it for almost a year. And we do it every month so that we gauge where we are within the cycle. I'm just providing an update now because a lot of people are somewhat panicking and wondering what the hell is going on. So let's show the chart and show where we may be, and also discuss the idea that there are a lot of indicators that suggest that with Bitcoin, time is on our side. So the first chart is the logarithmic regression fair value trend line of the entire cryptocurrency asset class, which is the red trend line. Now, the fair value of the current trend line puts the market capitalization of crypto at a modest 680 billion. However, we know we're coming in closer to about 2 trillion. So I made this chart a couple days ago. You can see it was at 2.25 trillion, but it's come back down to a little over 2 trillion at the current time. Now, the question is, well, if we're overvalued, does that mean we have to come back down? Well, it doesn't mean we have to come back down. Remember that the fair value is constantly increasing. So just if the market cap went sideways, the overvaluation would decrease because the fair value is a monotonically increasing function. So we look at this and we say, okay, well, where could we be in the grand scheme of the cycle? And just to give you guys an update, here we are. This is the shifted by 100% so that any undervaluation comes in below 100%. This is the percent difference between the market capitalization of the cryptocurrency asset class and the fair value logarithmic regression trend line. This is what you get. We've been looking at this chart for over a year now, okay? What do you see? Well, the first thing you can note is that it seems like we're generally decreasing in terms of fair value extension, or in terms of extension from the fair value logarithmic regression trend line. So it seems like the overvaluation decreases each market cycle. This does make some sense because it makes sense that each cycle we're not as able to extend quite as far because of the market capitalization limitations. It's going to take more and more volume, exponentially more volume, to move the market cap up the same amount each cycle. Therefore, it decreases from one cycle to another. We've also made the comparison between this cycle and 2 cycles ago. We've been making this comparison for probably half a year now, noting these similarities: the capitulation down to the green bubble here, back up to the purple. This was our 2019 run, back down to the yellow, back up where we poked our head above the fair value, and then back down to the final capitulation in red. This was our pandemic drop, and then we take off. And the reason why we show this is because, similar to 2013, this cycle has not had very many systematic tests of the 20-week moving average. We had our first one, just a couple days ago for the first time since September or October of 2020. Very similar to 2013. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because in 2013, there was a pullback that actually took Bitcoin below the 20-week moving average. It took it below it, just like we are below it today. Okay, just like we're below it today. And you have to consider that when we don't test the 20-week moving average for so long, the argument could be, are we too far gone to hold it in the short term? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the cycle's over. It might just mean we need to regroup and have some more accumulation before we can really make that run up to a 6-figure Bitcoin. So we look at this and we say, well, in terms of extension from the fair value, it seems like we have a ways we could go. Does that mean we have to do it immediately? Of course not. Now, I would contend that it's possible we do. And this is why I'm trying to appeal to everyone, no matter what cycle theory you follow. It's possible we do go up over the next few months and put in a market cycle peak by later this year. And if we do, I think the whole market capitalization as a whole would probably peak out less than $10 trillion. I think maybe closer to $7 trillion. plus or minus $1 trillion or so. I don't see it making it to 10 trillion in terms of the asset class as a whole if it were to put in the market cycle peak this year. Okay, so we also have to remember that each market cycle will have its own characteristics. It will. I mean, we can't say decisively that this cycle is going to play out exactly like 2 cycles ago. There's going to be some differences. Certainly, there are going to be some differences. We also could say, well, what if this is a local top like it was in 2013 and we come back down for a while and then we go back up? Now, I'm certainly not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that whether you think this is going to happen or whether you think this is going to happen, time is still on our side in the grand scheme of the market cycle. It just depends on sort of where you stand on market cycle theory. I told you where I stand, but of course, we're going to be flexible again as we navigate the cycle. So, in my opinion, if we go straight up, the market cycle peak will probably be less than if we come back down and then go back up later on. Because if we come back down, it will allow more, institutional money to pour in at cheaper valuations, and therefore they're going to want to push the price up higher, and it becomes a more attractive investment if the prices come back down. Note that this chart is not up to date. We've already come back down some because we know the market capitalization has pulled back by, because it was at 2.25 trillion, now it's at about 2 trillion. So it's already pulled back some. I just haven't updated the chart in a couple days. So we look at this and we say, well, we either go straight up and time is on our side, or we come back down for a while and then go up and time is on our side. No matter how you look at it, it seems to me like time is on our side. Why did we draw the circle here? Well, the only reason we did that is because we noticed that from this peak to the intermediate peak of the second cycle, it was about a 1/3 drop in terms of the extension from the fair value. And we do the same thing here. We can see it's about a 1/3 drop. So if this is the case and we come back down and test some lower levels for a while and trend back up later on, I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think it's going to make Bitcoin fly higher than it would have otherwise if the peak came in 2021. Okay, so yes, the peak could come in 2021. I just don't think it's going to extend quite as high. Well, you might say, well, Ben, it looks like this is decreasing. So the longer it takes, the lower it's going to go on this trend line. First of all, this is just a line on a chart. It could exceed it. Second of all, this trend line is with respect to the fair value, which again, we know the fair value is a monotonically increasing function. So while the limitation here from the extension from the fair value might increase as time goes on, because that function is monotonically increasing, the extension from it is extending from a higher value as we continue on in the cycle. So whether you think it's going to do this, time is on our side. Whether you think it's going to do this, time is on our side. If you look at the whole market capitalization, what would that look like? Well, if we go up later in 2021 and put in a market cycle peak, it might look something like that, okay? A market cycle peak, say in 2021. If we do it, say later on, it could look something like that. Regardless, to me, it looks like time is on our side. So then the other thing to just recap the prior videos, other than just looking at the fair value logarithmic regression trend line of the entire cryptocurrency market capitalization as a whole, we can also just look at the time from the days we crossed since the prior all-time high. We showed this in the last video. I'm just going to briefly cover it again. Looks like time is on our side. We measure it from the halving. Looks like time is on our side. We measure it from the market cycle bottom. Looks like time is on our side. No matter how we measure it, it seems like, yes, we could have short-term corrections, and I can't help with short-term corrections. I'm not a day trader. If you want day trading advice, go to a different channel. There's plenty of them. This is not one of them. This channel is focused on the macro trends in the market and identifying key momentum shifts, okay? And all we're contending now is that even if we do come back down, it should not negate the fact that over the entire cycle, we should still trend upwards. Whether that happens in 2021 or beyond remains to be seen. So if you guys like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Remember to check out the sale on the premium list. If you want to know how I'm navigating these markets, you can find a link to that in the description below as well. You can lock in the lower rate. Remember, the market cycle top of this cycle, in my opinion, should be around $10 trillion plus or minus a few $1 trillion. As I always say, as we go to sleep at night, we cannot help but wonder, what's a few $1 trillion among friends? Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.